Hello and welcome to this latest episode of Chasing Creativity. I'm Kiran Manral, your host. And today my guest is actress, anchor, model and soon-to-be art-based therapy practitioner, Shruti Seth. Welcome to Chasing Creativity, Shruti.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you and so good to meet you after so very long.
Absolutely. Likewise. It's just nice to see your lovely face in such close proximity.
We should do this more often. Next episode.
Okay. I'll be back.
You'll be back. I'm going to start right at the beginning. Shruti, you got into the glamour world on an off chance.
Totally.
So tell us how that came about. It was working somewhere and then auditioning for MTV, and what happened?
So actually, it started when I was in my third year Bachelor of Arts. I remember a family friend of ours. He used to own an advertising production house, and just randomly called my mom one day and said, "Teri beti bondal karegi?"
Uh-huh.
And my mother was like, "Meri beti se pucho." So he asked me, he said, "Would you like to do an ad with me?" And I said, "Okay, but what is it?" So it was for cleanser, I still remember. And I said, "How much am I going to get paid?"
The important
And
question, the very important question.
Yes. And he said 30,000 rupees. And I was like, 30,000? I said, before tax.
I love it.
He said, yes. So I was like, okay. It so happened that the ad happened bang in the middle of my TYBA final exams. But 30,000 was just too much money before tax to let go. So I did the ad. It was a one-day shoot. It was fun. I, strangely enough, ended up acting with a close classmate of mine. So it was really fun and games. And after that, all was forgotten. It was just like this fun experience with, a bounty of cash. And I finished college. I started working at the Taj Mahal, Mumbai as a guest relations executive on the Taj Club floors. And I was obviously very happy with the job till I was not, which is 6 months later. And I said, okay, this is not my cup of tea. Ye mujhse nahi ho payega. And I said, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to study for an MBA.
Okay.
So I started studying for an MBA. And I had severe math anxiety. So I didn't end up going for the entrance exam after studying for it. And then I felt terribly guilty that I had quit a job because my mother cried and said, "You are giving up a job with the Tata company. What is wrong with you?
I can
Are
imagine.
you mad?" This, and I was like, I don't know. This is just not my calling. So I felt very bad that, now I was a non-earning member of the family. So I always wanted to be an interior designer. So I applied for the entrance exams. I got into two very, very esteemed colleges. One was a full-time course and one was a weekend course. So I said, you know what, do I want to do a full-time course? Because then I won't be able to earn any money and I'll be a burden on my family and all of that. So I said, chalo, main weekend wala course kar leti hu. So I got a portfolio click because I had some money saved from that 30,000.
Oh, you still had that saved.
And what I had earned from the Taj. So I got a portfolio done by the really fun and very talented Baman Irani. Then I did the usual rounds. I went and gave my portfolio pictures to all and sundry, and the entire famous studios back then used to be the hub for advertising. So I said, chalo, thode ads kar lungi, usse paise bhi ban jayenge aur saath saath I'll study as well. So life was going fine. 6 months, I tried to straddle both worlds till one day I got a letter from the college saying, we feel this is not where you want to be because you're never here.
Oh, Lord.
You're always somewhere else. So maybe you should just stay there and don't come back. So I was like, what a polite letting go. What a nice breakup.
My goodness. But
So-
colleges back in the day were
No, so I
pretty
had no
okay.
attendance because all the ads came on the weekend.
Oh, okay.
And then they were all very tempting financially. So I kept saying no. And I started bunking college. And then they were like, no, this is not where you want to be. So we're going to let you go. And it just so happened that I started flourishing in the modeling business, got lots of work, soon transitioned into anchoring a lot of shows. And I said, okay, this seems like, a chance meeting with a very unexpected career. But I just continued. And one fine day, I got a call saying there's an audition happening. Would you like to try your hand at acting long format? And I was very, very apprehensive because I said, no, I don't think I can act. It's not going to happen. I was so self-conscious and, had stage fright my entire student life. So I said, ye nahi hoga. And she's like, do it for the fun of it. You anyway don't want to do it. So if you don't get it, you're not going to be heartbroken. But see where it lands you. I did the audition and I got the part.
Oh, lovely. What was this?
This was weirdly enough something that Balaji Telefilms was going to produce at that time. And for some reason, I got the part, but the dates didn't match. And I had to let it go. I was like, okay. But it was quite a thrill because I remember meeting Ekta Kapoor, who was very, very, very gracious. And she said, you're the face I was looking at. And you're just the right fit for this character. But it's just sad that the dates aren't working out. So I had to let that go, but it gave me a little shot in the arm and I said, okay, so maybe I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went for a couple of other auditions and started getting these little episodic numbers. I kind of started enjoying it. I was like, okay, this seems like it's fun. And I landed my first big show called Man, which was back then on a channel called DD Metro. It was a very big thing that happened. It was these primetime hours where they kind of changed the regular programming. And this was a very, very, very popular show back then. It was a beautiful story, but it killed me because it was such hard work. It was such hard work.
And you had no experience.
And I was a model. So you were in and out of gigs, on a daily basis. You'd shoot for a couple of hours. You'd walk away with a nice fat check. This was 12 hours non-stop every day of the week for months on end till I would cry saying, oh my God, I'm not used to this kind of hard work. And I remember back then, one of my fellow actors, Achint Kaur, who said, wait, let it come on the air. All of this will then make sense. And then, of course, the first time you see your face on a hoarding and then you become a household name and everyone is seeing you 5 nights a week on their television screens. And the fame, the popularity, the love from strangers, the blessing from elders, it all just becomes such a heady mix that then you never leave. And here I am, 22 years in.
So that was when the tiger first tasted blood.
Yes, absolutely. And then I haven't been able to go herbivore again.
Lord forbid you should.
Yes, but it's been a very, very, very fulfilling journey.
So you actually learned the art and craft on the floor itself. You sort of hit the floor running.
Completely on the job. And I still remember I did a show which sadly didn't get made because, but we shot a pilot. And I was standing on set to next to 3 veteran actors. And it was just so nice and so kind of them because this was one of my earlier gigs. And they said, okay, you have to learn as an actor, if you're on the floor, just delivering your lines isn't enough. You have to hit your mark so you're in focus. You have to catch the light so the camera can see your face. So it's not just coming and mouthing a couple of lines. There's a lot of science that goes into finally what is seen on camera. So they taught me how to hit your mark. They taught me how to face to get the right kind of angle into the camera, to catch the light at the right angle. And it was just, I was like, okay, this is really, it really is like a sport. You don't just stand and say lines. There's a lot that happens. And I think with every single gig that I did, I was lucky enough to meet someone who was kind enough to teach me something new. And of course, my biggest lesson was acting with Farida Jalal in Shararat. And she was my acting school. And in the nicest way possible because she was just the warmest, kindest, most encouraging co-actor one could have asked for. And she was so much fun. She just made the job so much fun. And it clearly has become a legacy of sorts because we haven't been able to shake that off.
I know. All these years later and you're still
Jia Malhotra of Shararat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But we'll go back to that after a break. We'll talk about your theatre experience and how it helped or didn't help you in your career. And we're back. Shruti, tell us a little bit more about this theatre experience that helped you or didn't help you in your acting career.
Well, okay. So I won't say, I think nothing doesn't help. I feel there's a lesson in everything. And this was fun because I think being on stage just teaches you a lot more about acting compared to being in front of the camera because as everybody knows, there are no cuts. It's, you have to know your script backwards. You rehearse it, you learn it till it becomes muscle memory, and then you do it, night on night, every time that you're on stage. You kind of start gauging your audience reactions. You learn what works, what doesn't work. So you try it again the next time. And I think the most fun part about doing that particular play, and the reason why I say that thespians won't call it theatre, is because it was a commercial play and they kind of looked down upon it with a certain amount of disdain. Having said that, it's a flourishing, part of the theatre business.
Absolutely.
So I think what was nice is that, again, I got to work with a really fun bunch of people. We had a really nice director and producer. And also he was one of the actors in the play. I got to meet lovely people while we were rehearsing for that play. We were all a fun bunch of cast members. And it was weird because one of the co-actors was Maria Goretti. And she had just retired from MTV. And I was dying to be a VJ. So I think just basking in her glory and being in contact with, the entire MTV gang kind of maybe worked in my favor. And I ended up auditioning for Channel V. And I got rejected. Then I auditioned for it again. And then again, nothing came of it. Till it was year 2002. I remember very distinctly, I had just gotten, we had just shot the pilot for Shararat. And Channel V happened to be a part of the Star TV network.
Yes.
And one of the people who was our exec producer is Gautam Tulshan, I still remember. I remember telling him, it's my birthday and I really, really want a Channel V audition. Can you make that happen? And he said, okay, it's your birthday. I can't say no. So he said, let me get you the audition. I got the audition and I remember a month later, I got called to the Channel V office and they were like, can you come and meet Deepak Dhar, who was back then, the head of talent he was one of the exec producers at Channel V. And we were chatting and something happened and he generally inquired, okay, why do you want to do this? And blah, 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 blah. And he was like, okay, so welcome aboard. And I was like,
oh, wonderful.
He was like, yeah, so we'll drop your papers and you start. And I remember I walked out of the office a little stunned and I met this girl and I said, listen, I don't know who you are, but I'm the new Channel V VJ. And I just hugged her and I started bawling because I couldn't believe it had happened. So it's weird how things kind of connect and lead you to new places.
Absolutely.
So while I would say that, like I said earlier, that I don't think there's anything in life that doesn't help you. You just have to see where it's taking you. And everything leads you to where you're supposed to be. Exactly. So
that's a lovely way of looking at it. Nothing goes wasted.
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing. Tell me, Shruti, you've done a whole plethora of roles, from, the funny to the lighthearted to something more serious, something very layered like Mentalhood. What is it that you enjoy the most?
Is everything an answer? Here's the thing. I'm glad I've never had to choose, or rather, I've always had a choice. I could say either or. So comedy somehow seems to have followed me everywhere. I don't know why. So I'm not complaining. It's just nice to find yourself on a set that's making people laugh. You can't really fault that at any level. Yeah, it does become a lot easier. So you're like, okay, now I want to kind of challenge myself and maybe step into a different role. I think the first time that I took that big risk was when I said yes to Rajniti.
Mm-hmm.
It was a so-called risque role. And I had obviously been sort of bracketed in this girl next door, funny, comical, sweet, bubbly. I hate that word. Like nothing upsets me more than being called bubbly. So I'm like, at least say effervescent. It just sounds nice.
That's too long. That takes up too many characters.
So bubbly. And then I remember being called in by a very dear friend of mine, Alankrita Srivastav, who's also a filmmaker. And she was at that point helping with the casting. And of course, she worked with Prakash Jha. And she called me in. She said, there's this character. This is what it is in a nutshell. And Mr. Jha is very clear that he wants to take someone who looks most unlikely to play the part.
Okay.
So would you be interested? And I was like, okay. And there was obviously a sex scene involved with Arjun Rampal, thank God. And
we're not complaining about that.
It was a very interesting, gray shade of political sort of, not even really a full-blown politician, just one of the party workers who's looking for a big break and is willing to do anything to get that part. And it was just very exciting to hear that character. And I went back home and I remember sitting with my parents and I said, okay, so I've been offered this role and there will be this particular scene which will be in the film. Will you be okay? And of course, my dad and Chacha were just like, oh, no. And they were like, don't talk to us about it. And my mom said, you're an actor. So yeah, you're just acting, right? Go do it.
So your mom sounds really cool.
My mom is very cool. And she was just like, why are you thinking about it? Go do it. So I remember not sleeping 25 nights. I was just like, I just want this scene to happen. And I did all my scenes. And that scene was just, I'm like, are we doing it today? Are we doing it tomorrow? And I was staying in Bhopal shooting for the film. And every night I would wake up in cold sweat saying, oh my God, what if I mess this up? What if I mess this up? What if I mess this up? And finally the day came. And that particular afternoon, Prakash Jha was just like, chalo, let's rehearse it. So I was like, okay. And he, of course, sat me and Arjun down. And I remember meeting Arjun and he looked more nervous than me. And he was like, I've never done this. I was like, okay, thank God. So that makes two of us. Good for Prakash Jha. But it was amazing because he was so clear about what he wanted. And he made it so safe because there was only me, Arjun, Mr. Jha, Alankrita, the sound guy, and the camera person in the room, and nobody else. And it was a locked set. Everybody had been sent off. It was a tiny little room. And he said, I want to try and get this in one take, max 2 takes. I don't want to overdo this, it will become mechanical. And I want it to look very raw and real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here's the beauty of being an actor that, while all these things kind of play in your mind, eventually it all boils down to vanity. And I'm like, am I looking good?
Of course, that's the bottom line.
Am I making sure that I'm delivering on the promise of whatever I have set out to do? And eventually, it's amazing how your brain just sort of fragments into so many different compartments. One compartment is remembering your lines. One compartment is making sure it's catching the light. One compartment is making sure it's giving you all the right expressions. One compartment is making sure the camera has got you exactly where you want it. And all of those things come together and it just becomes such a thing of joy, the job of acting. And when you're done with it, there is just this sigh of relief saying, okay, I can't believe I managed to live my biggest terror with such ease. And I remember when it finally released, I remember sitting in the hall watching the film on the big screen. And there were friends of mine who were they just looked at me stunned. They're like, what are you doing?
They were horrified.
Oh. And that's exactly what I wanted, right? I wanted to shake things up. And that's what I did. So in terms of breaking a mold, I think Rajniti was the first ever big leap I took. And then after that, it was interesting because a lot of people started seeing me as not just the girl next door, bubbly
was
girl.
Still going on?
That still goes on. But I think they just started seeing me as an actor, and that really kind of helped take my craft to the next level.
That's wonderful. So may more Rajnitis come your way.
Okay. If you say so, okay.
Yes, of course. I will not talk about the scenes.
Okay.
And we take a little break here and we'll be right back with Shruti Seth in a bit. And we're back. Shruti, now that you speak about Prakash Jha and how he directed you in that scene, I've always been curious. As an actor, a lot of what you bring to the craft is also dependent on so many different factors. It's the writer, it's the director, it's your co-actor. So as an actor, how do you ensure that you're on top of everything in a difficult situation or in a situation that won't be conducive to doing your best?
I think me, when I speak of myself as an actor, I think I work largely on instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trained, so I don't know the finer nuances of the acting job, so to speak. I always say I became an actor by accident. I've learned pretty much, one gig to the next, so on and so forth. I have also been lucky that I've met either whether I've been cast appropriately for characters, or I've chanced upon directors who have given me a lot of leeway to see what I bring, how I interpret the character, where do I see myself, how would I react as myself given that particular situation. I would say that a lot of it has been through instinct. There's been a lot of collaboration. So it's always about kind of sitting with your co-actor saying, okay, are we both seeing it the same way? How are you seeing it? Can I also sort of pivot and maybe see it the same way? So for me, it's been a lot of collaboration. Other than, say, somebody like Prakash Jha, or for that matter, I think one of the most challenging things I did was with my brother, Rishabh Seth. I remember doing a show called Rishta.com for Yash Raj television at that point. And my brother had written the show. And he was obviously very attached to his material. And I remember him and me sort of sparring on set because I was trying to play Big Didi. And he would just be like, you have to take me more seriously. I'm your director. And he was very clear about how he wanted Isha Mirchandani, the character that I played, to sort of, come to the fore. Of course, a lot of it was very close to who I am as a person, but he had a very clear note in mind. And while he and I would constantly keep having these little tussles, I think he was someone who said, okay, I like what you're doing, but now can you also do it the way I want you to do it? And then I will choose. Maybe you will surprise me. Maybe you will learn something from how I see this. So it was interesting to do it in two ways. One, how I saw it, and one, how he saw it. And that was also interesting because you're like, okay, it's nice to keep changing your perspective. And I think that's, again, a beautiful thing that actors enjoy, right? That you get to be so many different people, be in so many different situations that would not ordinarily happen in your life. One way of seeing things.
Yeah.
So
Right.
For me, I think my entire career, it's largely been collaborative and hugely guided by my instinct.
Lovely. So you're an instinctive actor and not a method actor.
Yes, I would say so. A lot of people would argue saying I'm not an actor at all. But I guess it is.
No. Of course, instinct matters the most, I think. Whatever you get into method, but there has to be a basic instinct to the method itself.
True. So, yeah, I would say I am an instinctive actor.
And you've learned on the job, and that's commendable. Shruti, when we talk about creativity, in acting as a profession, where would you say creativity comes in for the performer?
You can't act if there's no script. So that's where the starting point of the creativity is. You can't act if someone is not guiding you about where you could take a particular character. Because, like I said, I can only have that many perspectives. And then after that, my brain shuts down. So it's nice to meet someone else to say, okay, you know what, there's another view of this. Now, why don't you see it from my lens? So I think that's the second part, which is where your director comes in. And a lot of it comes from your co-actors, because we don't even realize how your buttons can get pushed. In real life, I think I have everything under control till I don't. So I think that's your third, part of creativity. So strangely enough, I would say that it's very external. And then you have to sort of internalize it. I don't know if this is making sense.
It does completely.
But I'm not the starting point of the creativity, is all I would say.
Okay.
It's largely external. So there's lots of stimuli being sent my way. And then how I react to that stimuli is where my creativity comes in.
And do you do any research for your roles? Like for the role in Rajniti, for instance, did you observe political workers? Did you observe that category of people?
Not at all, actually, because I think, Prakashji was so well versed with his world. And it was sort of etched in stone. He was like, I know what I'm talking about. I want you to just see it from how I see it. And it was amazing because there was just clear instructions. And it wasn't open to any interpretation. He was like, I have set a world which I have researched and I have written. And if you change something, something else changes somewhere else. So we'll stick to the world that I have built. And it was very liberating, to be honest, because that kind of clarity you very rarely get on a set, to be honest. And of course, I don't think, for me, it was very refreshing. I'm sure for some people, it could be a little restrictive as well, saying, I'm not being given any movement here. But I genuinely like the fact that there was so much clarity from his end. He knew exactly what he wanted. And I think I managed to deliver what he was hoping to extract from me as an actor.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Thank you, Kiran.
Shruti, during the pandemic, of course, it was a tough time for everyone. What I really found inspiring is that you took to training in something completely different. And you began training in, can you tell us a bit more about this art-based?
So actually, that was not really how I started. It was really weird, Kiran, because I was in the middle of a crazy shoot before we went into lockdown. And I think I was just bone tired. And I've always been on a bit of a mythical quest, I would say, just constantly looking for something deeper in terms of my human experience. And I chanced upon something called the science of well-being. And I always wanted to know, I was like, okay, so why is happiness such an elusive thing? Why do we keep finding that when I'll do this, then I'll be happy. When I do that, then I'll be happy. And while it does happen, it just disappears. It's like a little butterfly, right? It kind of sits on your shoulder and then it's off and then you're searching for it again. So I remember doing that, and it was a very interesting, insightful certification from Yale. It was fun. And I was just like, okay, can I do something that requires a certain level of discipline? And it was a self-learning course. You, of course, had to submit assignments and whatever. And then eventually you got a certification for attending the classes and for whatever, passing a certain very elementary kind of exam. But it triggered something because it taught me something about the human brain. And I said, okay, this is interesting how our mind messes with us so much. Very early on, I'd seen a film called The Matrix, which has become pretty much the roadmap to my life. And there's one line in it which is called Free Your Mind. And that is pretty much all I want to do in one life, is I want to free my mind. And I said, okay, how am I going to get there? So I started with this course. I moved on to a course from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, which is my alma mater, which was a certification in counseling.
Okay.
Just to understand, do I have the chops to be a counselor? And the clear-cut answer to that is no. Okay. I don't. Thank God for that clarity. Simultaneously, I was doing a course in Buddhist psychology, which was probably the most fascinating thing I've done. And I highly recommend it to every single human being alive. that it really is like mental gymnastics, because it makes you do so much self-inquiry, so much critical thinking, to constantly keep understanding why do we do the things we do. We stop asking ourselves, right? We're almost like robots. Mummy ne bola padho to pad liye, अच्छे मार्क्स लाओ तो अच्छे मार्क्स ले आए, फिर अच्छा जॉब ले लिया, फिर सिक्योर हो गए, फिर शादी कर ली, फिर बच्चे कर लिए, फिर बच्चों के लिए कमाया, फिर बुढ़ापे के लिए कमाया. That's pretty much how we move. But we never stop to say, where is my agency in this? Do I want to be a mother? And if I do, why do I want to be a mother? So all it does is keeps making you question why you do the things you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of really sort of, I feel it opened up my mind. I have to finally free it. That hasn't happened yet, but it definitely opened up my mind.
Okay.
And when I finished that course, I think my teacher, I remember calling her saying, okay, you know what? This has set me on some path. I don't know what it is. What is the next step? And she gave me multiple options, said, okay, these are what you could probably inquire about and then see what interests you. And I chanced upon this thing called art-based therapy, which is based on Buddhist psychology principles. And it essentially uses art-based techniques to sort of help people therapeutically who have difficulty with talk therapy.
Okay.
So it's a lot of using art-based techniques to help you navigate your mind, to, express yourself if you're having difficulty using words. And it's used largely for children with special needs. It's used with, I think, every single adult needs to do it. It's great for building focus, for mindfulness, for teaching children how to express themselves, because, their vocabulary is not that extensive. But it's amazing how it can give you answers into your mind and your thinking without you even realizing it. And I'm not a psychologist. So I will not be interpreting what people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
That will be done by a therapist or a psychologist. What I do is I offer a tool. So art-based therapy is essentially a tool for therapy for anyone who's having difficulty with talk therapy. And
so you're already practicing, you're already consulting people?
Not yet, because I'm hopefully getting certified on the 17th of this month. But yes, it's been a 2-year-long course. I did an offline model, an online model while we were under lockdown. When things opened up, we did our offline course, which is, it was 2 parts. It's 7 days intensive learning art-based techniques. We had a pilot project in which I had to do 15 hours of art-based therapy workshops, after which we did our second module. And then there were 35 hours, which I completed at an orphanage with a bunch of 14 girls. And if I may say so, I have not been prouder of myself. It has been a massive commitment with my work, with all the distractions, my parenting responsibilities, life, keeping all that going and being able to complete this has really been, it's my Mount Everest.
And it's very inspiring. It's very, very inspiring.
Well, thank you. But it's been hugely liberating. Like, I'm still, every time I talk of it, I think it kind of, stills my beating heart, because I'm like, I can't believe I made it to the other side. It has been so gratifying. I cannot even begin to tell you, Kiran. It's wonderful. It has literally changed my life.
I think the fact that you took the leap and did something completely out of your comfort zone, that's so wonderful. So often we are very stuck in our comfort zone. We don't want to try out something new.
Yes.
Whatever's going on for us, let it go on. As someone who is a performer, not only are you doing something in the space of art-based therapy, you're also very passionate about yoga.
Yes.
Apart from the fact that, of course, you need to be fit in order to be a good performer, and you need to be fit to, do the long hours that your work needs. What does yoga bring to your craft?
So I think, it's quite wonderful, Kiran, how earlier when I told you that we don't even know how things connect us. I learned so much about stillness from my first ever yoga teacher, Aoife Shroff, who I love madly. And I keep telling her that I will follow her to the ends of the earth because she really gave me one of the finest gifts of my life, which was my yoga practice. And the health aspects aside, it really is about stilling yourself. It's learning to control your mind. To be able to be in a pose that is uncomfortable and difficult, and oh my God, sometimes it is so painful. To be able to just stay in it and say, okay, how much pain can my body endure? How much of it is actually just my mind telling me I'm in pain, but I'm not, because it's just teaching me to do something differently. And strangely enough, when I connect that to arts-based therapy, the first thing that our teachers taught us was two principles largely. One being breaking concepts. Everything in your life is a concept. It has been taught to you, it's been drilled into you, but it's a concept. You have to keep breaking it. And as an actor, that is what you're doing. You're breaking concepts. I'm going and becoming a new person on set. I'm working with a whole new team. I'm working with people who have a completely different way of their working styles. You never meet two identical directors.
Mm-hmm.
So each has a different process. You can't get attached to a concept that, oh, I met this guy, this is how he works, so now all directors work the same way. They don't. When I leave that set, I break that concept and I'm brand new on a new set. And again, coming back to yoga, the one thing that my teacher would tell me, that yoga essentially means becoming. It's becoming new every day. Every day you do a pose, you do it differently, you become a new person. So when the first time I was on the mat, I couldn't do one of the asanas. She was like, stay in it. Tomorrow, you'll go deeper. Then you'll go deeper still and deeper still. And every time you are becoming a new person who yesterday could not touch her toes. And today she's a new person who can put her palms under her feet. So that's how much you can bend and mold your body because you're breaking concepts. So it's just been such a wonderful, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a web. Everything has just connected in my life and it's all come together seamlessly.
That's so lovely to hear. Shruti, you posted something on your Instagram and I'd like to read it. You said, there must be something crazy about the artists that we willfully choose a life of uncertainty. We work nights, days, weeks through winters and monsoons and blistering summers, away from home, from family, from friends, and all things familiar, pushing ourselves to breaking point, all for a piece of art for a brief moment. I'd like you to talk more about this uncertainty and this peripatetic life of an artist.
Oh, wow. I remember sitting in a really hot spot in Bhopal in 2021 April.
I know you called me from there.
Yes. I remember sitting there. I had to leave Bombay when my daughter had just contracted COVID. And I remember crying that whole flight saying, I cannot believe I'm leaving a sick child and going to work. I reached Bhopal. We started shooting and we were sitting and it was 48 degrees, for crying out loud. It was so hot. And we were shooting a film that required cricket practices. And we were all standing there thinking, okay, who's going to fall first? Because you were that close to fainting. And doing it again and again and again and again till we got the shot. And we had not had lunch. We were all hungry. We were thirsty. And yet there was something in the air that kept us all so tightly gripped together till the director said, okay, I got the shot. And then all of us heaved this sigh of relief. And that's when I wrote this piece. Because I just looked around and I said, oh my God, we're all crazy here. Like, what are we doing? Nobody's asking for food. Nobody is complaining that the sun is at like death-defying levels. It could kill one of us. I have left a sick child and I'm sitting here performing and everyone is holding on to one person's word. And when he says it's okay, we all say it's okay. I said, we're nuts. And it can only happen to artists. And I just kind of extrapolated that. And then I thought of every single person who's in any way attached to the arts. And that is pretty much how we live our lives. a painter dies penniless and then his paintings get sold for, billions of dollars.
Absolutely.
And you really wonder, what is it that keeps us going? And it's just fascinating how the love of one thing can be so maddening that it steals you of all common sense, that you sign up for a job. 22 years in, I'm still hustling. I'm still calling people saying, if there's something interesting, let me know. Call me for the next gig. I have yet not found steady ground. And I know this. Every day I know this. And I continue to live it. I'm willfully choosing to live this life. And again, the only thing that can explain it is just some sort of madness, because there's no logic to it.
What would you tell a young person looking to get into the business?
Have a very good safety net. I hope your parents have a lot of money, because this is a hobby, bro.
This is a hobby.
Not a career, while it is, but it is laced with uncertainty. That is just the nature of it. At some point, in fact, just yesterday, my brother and I were talking about it, who's also an actor, who's also a writer, director, producer. My husband's a writer, director. I'm like, what have I done? I've also surrounded myself with crazy people just like myself. And the other day, my daughter came and said, Mama, I want to be an artist. I was like, wait, say you want to be a successful artist. Okay, please use that prefix always.
Let the universe manifest.
Yes, because really, when you think about it, you know that you've been told this is how it is. Now you're choosing to do this. So you can't blame anyone but yourself. And then literally the end goal is just that piece of art. It's just that one moment of joy when you look at yourself saying, oh my God, I've just blown my own mind. Or you watch things that blow your mind and you think there's an entire universe that has made that happen, who are just as crazy as you are. So it is just, it's an insane career is all it is. It is completely and absolutely ridiculous.
What's next from Shruti? What do we see you in next?
The film that made me write that piece, that should hopefully release sometime soon. I just finished shooting for a series on Amazon, which will release next year. I did another show last year that should release sometime in June with BBC and Applause Entertainment. I think it's coming on Sony, but I'm not going to say anything till they don't tell me, because it's all hush-hush. But yeah, all of that is happening. And on the 17th of June, I'm going to get my certificate for art-based therapy. And then I am going to the UK later this year to do a teacher's training course in mindfulness meditation.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Just student life has been, I think I thought I was crazy doing what I've been doing for the last 22 years. And then I said, okay, let's take this to the next level and go back to studying. So I've just upped my level of madness.
I know.
And for the best thing possible. I feel it was really weird. Kiran, I always thought I would sort of veer towards academics when I was younger, but that didn't end up happening. So I really feel like I'm living an unfulfilled dream, that I just wanted to genuinely see how much knowledge I could probably try and accumulate in one lifetime. And
I love the reinvention. I love it. And I love the fact that you're taking such a big chance on yourself.
Thank you. And on my life.
I'm just waiting to see what's going to come next from you. It's going to be in all the shows. She's just told you what to watch out for. Guys, we had Shruti Seth with us and we had a wonderful conversation with her. Thank you so much, Shruti, for your time. And with that, it is a wrap on this episode of Chasing Creativity. This is Kiran Manral signing out. And do follow me on my social media at Kiran Manral everywhere. Tell me what you thought about the show. Tell Shruti too. She's on social media as well.
That's Shru to Kill at Instagram. Twitter, do not talk to me. I don't talk to anyone on Twitter anymore. But before we go, Kiran, can I please tell you, it is always, always so delightful to be in your company, because you're just so radiant and, talk of being inspiring. I think one just keeps learning from excellent company that one keeps. And I'm so glad that our paths crossed. And I have always looked up to all the wonderful things that you keep yourself busy with. And thank you for always being so gracious and so, full of encouragement. You are very, very, very kind. Thank you. And so funny. You're so funny. So thank you for your humor.
You're a sweetheart. You're a sweetheart to say all this. Thanks, Shruti. And yes, do follow us. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Bingepods, wherever you get your audio content. See you next week. Bye, folks.